Broke Right Media.
You're now listening to The Straight Shooter Show with your host, The Straight Shooter.
So you got to be in it to win it. I'm sure you've probably heard this saying 1,000 times, especially whenever like the lottery gets going real high. Everybody's like, you buy a lottery ticket, you got to be in it to win it. And I hear this so often, and I always think, yeah, but, you know, the odds of winning the lottery are so, you know, huge. I mean, you're just not, the odds are just so far against you. But in life in general, I mean, you got to be in it to win it, right? So if you're talking about your relationship with your spouse or your boyfriend or girlfriend or your kids or whatever, you have to be in it to win it. What does that mean exactly? I mean, if you're buying a lottery ticket, you have no control. I mean, you're buying a ticket, you're in it, you have a possibility, you might win, but not a very good possibility. But in your marriage or your boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, if you're in it, that means really be in it. I mean, not just going through the motions, not just saying the right stuff or, you know, I'm here, I go to work, I come home, I'm with you. No, you got to be in it. If you're in it, then you're living for it. You're dreaming about it. You're thinking about it, just like people do about the lottery. They think, man, if I win that lottery, I'm going to buy this, or I'm going to go on this vacation. I'm going to do this. They have all these plans that they want to fulfill if they win that lottery. If you would view your relationships the same way, I'm in this. I am in this relationship. I'm dreaming about what we're going to do, the relationship that we're going to have. If you make that a constant in your life, it's something that you're thinking about all day, just like people do the lottery, your relationship is going to be so much better because you're in it. And let's talk about your kids. It's the same thing. If your kids are priority to you, and I hope they are, you got to be in that. Not just give them their lunch money, send them off to school, ask them how their grades are, you know, buy them a new bat. You got to be in that relationship with your kids. I mean, every day you have to be active, and you need to be dreaming about, this is what we're going to do. Thinking about, this is what we're going to do. We're going to have a great day together. We're going to spend some time together. You have to be actively in it. And if you're not actively in that relationship with your children or your spouse or your boyfriend or girlfriend, you ain't going to win it. You have to be in it to win it. All right, so that's the monologue, and reviewing all the comments and everything on the YouTube from the episode 1. I was just thrilled to death with all the interaction after this episode. If you enjoyed it or if you didn't enjoy it, I'd love it if you'd leave a comment and let us know what you thought of the show. It really means a lot to us that you do that. And so what else we got going on?
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of mimic what you just said, that the outreach is kind of, it's pretty awesome seeing everybody reaching out to the show. In order to make this show a good show, it's going to be up to the fans to interacting, emailing us, sending us video messages, audio messages, just regular emails, whatever you want to do, shoot it to us, and we're going to do our best to either get you on the show to talk to the Straight Shooter directly, or read your email on here. In fact, I got a couple emails I wanted to read to you today. So the first one's Cole Hitch. He emailed. He said, we've talked over DM a long while back. Your advice on moving out and with my parents really helped. And to give you an update, I've never really been better overall in life. Since then, I've gotten a full-time job, working good hours. I'm fully moved out and self-sufficient. I have a lovely girlfriend. My parents and I are in a great place, and everything just seems good right now. I have a lot of perspective changes since last talk, and I think that is a big part of change. Just my outlook on every situation can play such an impact. Anyway, I just wanted to get in contact every way I can. I had some crazy life for just being 18, almost 19, and I feel I could share a lot with the world. I've wanted to start a podcast for a long time, but just don't have the platform or name. It would truly be an honor and an amazing to be on yours. Regardless, as always, I really hope you're doing well and staying safe in the hectic times. You're such a wise, down-to-earth man. Keep up the hard work. Never look back. Thank you, Cole Hitch.
Cool.
Yeah,
Love to hear the update.
That's cool that just to see that, it's got to make it worth it for you to see somebody that's working out, you know.
I love updates. I love to hear back from people that I've talked to in the past, and they send me a message maybe 3 or 4 months, sometimes 6 months later, and they're like, hey, you know, just want to let you know what you told me. I did it, and things have really worked out for us. Sometimes it's only a few weeks I hear back from somebody, and they're like, man, that really worked out well for me. I just love getting that kind of feedback.
Have you ever got one where people said like, hey, I tried your advice and it sucked?
I never got one of those. I did have a guy that I spent a few hours with him, and, you know, I told him from the beginning, I said, look, I'm going to tell you what I would do, but I think this is over. I think she's already bolted. She just hasn't physically left you, but I'm pretty sure it's over. And he messaged me a few weeks later, and he's like, yeah, she just packed up. She's gone. It's over. Yeah, I know. But
I mean,
he tried.
what are you gonna do? Yeah.
I mean, there really wasn't anything he could do. I mean, I gave him some suggestions, but I knew that I could tell by the things that he told me she was done.
Yeah.
It was over.
Yeah. It's unfortunate. Okay. Eric Clark sent an email. He has some questions for you. Thanks for the submission, Eric Clark. He said he's got a couple questions. I'll just read them off one at a time and you can answer them. He asked, do you think your significant other should have an opposite gender guy, girl, best friend?
You know, I've covered this so much. I don't look, if that's what their best friend is, it is. But when you think about a best friend, typically your best friend is somebody you're going to spend some time with. I mean, hang out with. And in my opinion, it's not healthy. It's not healthy for a relationship if your significant other is hanging out with somebody of the opposite sex. Whether there's anything going on or not, it still raises doubt. It puts some kind of doubt. And furthermore, if you're in a relationship, you should be hanging out with the person that you're in a relationship with. Now, girls need some girl time. Get it. Guys need some guy time. Get it. But if a girl needs time with a guy, be with the guy that you're with. That's how I see it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, the second one, do you think the rise of technology and the easy access to people has normalized being sort of hoish?
Normalized it. I mean, I can see where the question's coming from. It may have increased it a little bit, but even prior to technology, I mean, there's been hoes around forever, forever. And it's been accepted pretty widely accepted, for a long, long time. I mean, go back to the 80s, which even before that, but let's just go back to the 80s whenever I was a young kid and you got Madonna. I mean, what she put out there was pretty hoish and people ate it up, and girls, they would, try to mimic her. So technology may have increased it some, but it's been around forever.
Come to think about it, Madonna was the innovator of that.
Yeah.
Everybody was looking at her like, what are you doing? But then she was like one of the biggest artists of all time.
Right.
Because she innovated being mainstream.
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree with that.
I don't mind it. Okay. I think you've answered this one before, but I don't know. He asked it in a different way. So he said, when is the right time to say I love you when you know that you are in love? He's saying, you're in love. When do I tell her?
And I've answered this. Yes, you're right. I've answered this a handful of times. In my opinion, it doesn't need to be rushed. I mean, when it feels like, in my case, whenever I have said it, it has just come over me right then. I knew it, but I feel like they already knew it too. They knew that I loved them. Well, my most recent wife, she may not have known because I told her fairly early, but I'd known her for years. Other than that, they already knew that I loved them by my actions. So I would say let your actions speak for you for the most part. Make them know that you, that you love them by how you treat them, by your actions. And then whenever the feeling comes over you and it just feels like the right time and you feel like you need to or want to say those 3 words, then have at it. But make sure that you do. And don't rush it unless you've known them for many years. Don't tell somebody you love them in the first 90 days, for sure. I wouldn't even suggest saying it in the first 6 months.
Yeah. It's too risky, right? Because like, even if you do love them, you should probably be honest with them and tell them right away. That's the right thing to do. But if they're not on the same page, you could lose them right then.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Let them say it first. Be a man.
Yeah. Let them say it first.
Don't listen to me. I suck.
I've said it first many times, and and that's another thing. Hell, I've said it before, and I really felt like I did, and then a few months went by after I said it, and who I thought they were wasn't who they were, and I loved what I thought they were, but another thing is, people use that "I love you," and they think that they love them, but then they change, like I did, and they change their mind, and you've roped this person in to, you can't take it back. Once you tell somebody that you love them, you don't stop saying "I love you." If you do, relationship's pretty much over. So
yeah, you can't do that, and they're gonna hold that over your head. But you said you love me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wouldn't rush that phrase.
All right, and then he had a personal question for you. He wants to know, what's your all-time favorite song?
I get that question so often, and it is so hard for me.
Well, I've been watching your content. You talk a lot about Post Malone. Is that possible that he's one of your favorite songs? Or is there one that just sticks out to you? Maybe a memory, that one of your favorite memories and a song's attached? Oh, he's got one.
It is so, several just come into my head, and it is so hard for me because there's songs for different feelings that could be your favorite song.
Yep.
There's this song that just makes you want to move, and this song that just deals with you, brings the emotions out of you, or there's so many different things. But
you look like a Freebird guy.
I do like that song. It's a good song. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with Oklahoma Breakdown by Stoney LaRue. I mean, that's just one hell of a song. Love it.
Okay, awesome. All right. Our first caller this week is Deanna. She emailed us and she's inquiring. She's just wanting a little advice. It's not that she's been doing terrible, but she's lost 2 jobs. She's been kicked out of school for non-payment and is trying to figure out how to navigate being an adult, having relationships, and she's having a hard time. And she's wanting to talk to you to see what your input on is. So let's talk to Deanna.
See what she has to say.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm good. Saturday morning's wonderful. So you had some questions for me.
Yeah, I figure it's always easier to start out maybe with a situation to kind of explain the way you feel. But
Yes.
my initial question is always, I mean, I'm 21, so I'm pretty young, but I feel like I have this issue where everything that happens feels like it's really big. It feels like it's affecting me in a way that I don't know, what it's going to do to me in 5 years. And I guess recently, I have a pretty serious boyfriend, and he graduates in the spring. I unfortunately don't. I missed a few classes as it happens. And, we were going to move in together and we had all these plans. And then out of nowhere, he drops on me that he might be moving across the country instead, for a better job opportunity. And I would never ask him to not do that. I want him to do everything
Right.
that, can advance him in his life. But, hearing that, it it sent me back so far that I was like, the plans are ruined. I don't know what I'm going to do now. I don't know how this is going to affect me. What happened to what we were thinking? And, just stuff like that. I mean, as somebody who's older now and has experienced life, I'm sure that you've had moments where you feel
Yes.
that. And, I'm wondering, do you have an example or, just the way that you get through that, or bring yourself back and say, it's just a situation that you're going to have to get through?
Absolutely. And yeah, I've said that, people that are younger, they're especially in high school, and then it's even in college and, early mid 20s, emotions run a lot higher than when you get older. And I probably contribute a lot of that to experience, that you have been there, you've been through, various situations. I can tell you that, you've been following me. You know that I've been married 3 times, and when I divorced my first wife, my second wife, I did not want to get a divorce. I mean, it just, for me, it felt like it was the last resort. It's all I had left to do, and it was very, very hard on me. The first time I got divorced, especially just because, I felt like it was life altering. What do I do now? Like you're saying, you feel,
right.
And each time that I have had a breakup, or something like that happen in my life, it gets a little easier for me as, okay, well, that didn't work out the way I wanted it to. I know that life is going to go on, that there's going to be the next chapter for me. I don't know exactly what it is right now, but I know there's going to be the next chapter. And so being able to control your emotions and realize that, well, shit, that didn't work out, but I know that I'm moving forward in my life for myself. And then whatever comes, I'll address that when it gets here. Not necessarily going out and looking for like a new boyfriend or new relationship, or, in your case, with what you're dealing with right now, that's going to come. There's going to be, there's going to be a guy that's going to, hit you up to take you to dinner or whatever, and you're going to either feel it or you're not. If you do, then that may be the beginning of your next chapter for you. So if you just remind yourself that it's not the end of the world, that, not every relationship is going to end. It may or it may not, but you have to do the best you can in each relationship, like I believe you did in this past relationship. It just didn't work out. New job opportunities, and that's what it is. So, in short, I know I went the long way around. Remind yourself every day that, it sucks. It didn't work out. I wish it would have changed, but there's a new chapter coming.
Right. And it may not necessarily mean the new chapter means a new person.
Right.
It's just because, like I said, being young, being 21 years old, there's 1,000 things getting thrown at young people all at once, between school and family, and trying to figure out what we want to do in life. And then, having the one thing that you think might be the solid and just not being it just is, at this age, it just feels like, crap. What are we going to do now? Especially if you're someone like me and you like to have a plan,
right?
Especially for the future, and you think, this is going to be great. I have everything figured out. Nothing's ever going to go wrong with this. And then, of course, that's not how life works out.
No, that's true. And like I said, you just have to remind yourself every day. Everybody goes through valleys to get to the top of the next hill, right? So, maybe this is a valley for you right now. And when you're talking about stresses of school and friendships and, all the other things that are being thrown at you, try to compartmentalize, whatever your stresses are, and try to only deal with, 1 or 2 stresses at one time. You may deal with them all in the same day, but try not to let yourself get overwhelmed with, I got these 12 things hitting me. I can't deal with all these 12 things, because you can't, but you can deal with 1 or 2. Right. So, you can put some thought into that 1 or 2 things for a while, but if you start thinking about a different issue that's coming at you, you have to put that box away that those 2 issues are in, and not think about that, because you will get overwhelmed. So for me, that's been my best method of dealing with all the stresses that come at me is just not to let myself
Mhm.
get overwhelmed with too many things all at the same time.
Mhm.
Is
And
that
then, I mean, if you don't have a story, that's fine. But if you have any advice, maybe for the younger couples out here, especially around our age, college age, graduating college, I mean, what do you think? Because this is the time that we're growing most and figuring things out the most. And I mean, do you figure that people should be growing together and figure things out, or maybe go their separate ways and figure things out? Because relationships are a huge part of the stress of people of my age, and I'm just wondering if you've had any experience, with trying to make it work or not make it work, or make that decision of what do we have to do next in order to see what the next chapter is for us.
I don't think that there is a definitive answer on which way is best, whether you are in a relationship growing together in that
Mm-hmm.
relationship, or if you are growing as an individual without being in a relationship. I think I think it varies from person to person, really. So who you
Mm-hmm.
are, I can't answer that 100%, but I will tell you that between the ages of 16 and 25, you grow so much, and maybe even into your
Mm-hmm.
later 20s. You're not the same person. Whether you're in a relationship or you're not, you're going to evolve into a new person. Your maturity level at 21 obviously is a lot greater than it was at 16, but your maturity
Right.
level and understanding of the world at 28 is going to be so much greater than it is at 21. And so
Right.
I can't tell you if you should be in a relationship or shouldn't, but if you are in a
Mm-hmm.
relationship while you are growing, the things that I have preached is make sure that you are growing as an individual, even if you're in a relationship. Make sure that the person you're
Mm-hmm.
in the relationship with is also growing as an individual, and make sure that you are
Mm-hmm.
complementing each other's lives. So
Right.
you're doing your own thing. You're going to school, you're working, you've got some individual goals. If you find yourself in
Mm-hmm.
another relationship, in a month or two or six or whatever, make sure that that person is already happy with themselves for the most part, and that they have their own
Mm-hmm.
individual goals that they are driving for. And then
Mm-hmm.
communicate regularly, like every week, about, how things are going for those goals, for short term and long term goals. And then what are y'all's goals going to be together? How can y'all grow together and make y'all's couple goals be a reality for y'all? And I don't really have a specific story
Mm-hmm.
because I made so many mistakes, not doing what I'm telling you to do. I did not do whenever I was younger.
Of course.
And so, but I have seen other people that, they did have relationships. I've got a cousin he married his high school sweetheart right out of high school. He went to college. Um, he's got an engineering degree. They've got kids together. I
Oh,
think they've been
wow.
together like 15 years now. They were made
Right.
for each other. They both had the same goals in life. And I don't see
Mm-hmm.
anything happening with that couple. So then other couples, they try that at 21, and they're going such polar opposite directions it's not going to work out. So
Mm-hmm.
in
No, yeah.
the end, make sure that if you get in a relationship, you both have individual goals and work together toward couple goals.
Yeah, and in hopes that, the growth will strengthen the relationship and, bring it closer and hopefully find the person you want to spend the rest of your life with, God willing.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm sorry that things didn't work out with your ex boyfriend, the one that's moving. I mean, I understand too that if a job opportunity comes up, and that's what it is, and it's
No, of course.
tough.
That's what I said, anything that you can do to make your life dream come true, I would never in my life be right or get angry at somebody, for doing what's best for them.
Right. Right.
And that's a tough thing to learn how to do.
It is. Because I'd want you to do the same thing. I mean, if you got the dream job opportunity, I would want you to take it, even if it meant leaving him behind.
Yeah, of course. And I feel as if, if it were any other situation or any other guy, I think I would have, if the relationship's not going well, I feel as if you try to hold on to it more and think, no. But this one was going well. So I said, you know what? I want this person to succeed in life and do everything that they can.
And that means that you loved him, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It certainly does.
All right. Well, I hope that something that I have said for you today will help you going forward and in deciding what you're going to do, whether it be in a relationship or just stay single for a while and work on your individual goals and compartmentalizing your stresses that you have coming at you.
No, of course. Thank you so much. This is genuinely, not something I would have imagined I could do to speak to you. I've been following you on TikTok for quite some time. So this is pretty great, and I appreciate it so much.
Well, thank you. I'm thrilled to death to have you as a follower. I hope you have a great weekend.
Thank you. Yes, you as well. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah, that's hard, isn't it?
It is.
Some of the saddest movies out there is that when two people love each other so much and everything's so perfect, it's almost like a nightmare that when they have to break up because of job opportunities and stuff like that.
Right.
But what they don't show in the movies is sometimes that person doesn't go running after the airplane. And, in those sad movies where the person goes running after the airplane and they're running down the hallways and they're saying, stop, 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 stop.
Right.
Sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes they don't run after the plane and the person actually leaves. And then you're spent the rest of your life wondering what would have been, It's sad. It's a very sad story. And she's so, dude, I don't know many people that wouldn't be really upset. She
is upset.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like mad, like being
She's
like, you
accepting.
son of a gun. There's not many people her age that's just like, I know, go do it.
Well, that's why I said that you love her. I mean, it's clear to me that you love her.
Yeah.
When I look at my most recent divorce, I've been pretty open about it that, she moved because she wanted to relocate back to her hometown for her kids and grandkids. And she just felt like she needed to be there to be grandma. And I felt it coming for a few months before we had the discussion. And when she said, I want to move back, immediately I said, that's all you had to say. Let's get your stuff packed up. Let's get you moved back. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not going to beg you to stay here. If that's where you want to be, then that's where I want you to be. And same thing with this girl. If that's where he needs to be and she loves him, then that's where he needs to be. It sucks. Yeah. I didn't want my wife to move back to her hometown. I wanted her to stay there with me. But yeah, if she felt strongly enough about it that she's going to tell me I want to move back, there's no point in me trying to convince her otherwise. Just let her go.
And we don't know how this story ends. They could end up together and married and be married for 50 years.
They could. But they could. No, who knows what happens when she graduates from college?
This could be the ultimate show of love, and it end up working out. Deanna, keep us updated. We're very invested and we want to know how this turns out. So Absolutely. Email us, keep us updated, and we'll let the listeners know. But we hope the best for you, and we love you. So
yes, thank you, Deanna.
All right, now we're moving on to the next phone call. It's Kirsty. She's struggling with her 12-year-old daughter whose father passed away a year ago. In her words, she said the father wasn't very nice. Now the daughter is getting into trouble at school. She thought that since the bad influence is gone, she'd get better, but it hasn't. And she's asking for any advice on how to handle this situation. So let's talk to Kirsty.
All right. Hello, okay. Kirsty. How are you today?
Hi, Jason. I'm good. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Wonderful Saturday morning.
Yeah.
So I've read the email.
Gotta be nicer there.
Well, it's actually pretty cold today. The sun is shining, and there's a little bit of wind, and it makes it feel a lot colder.
Oh, it's wet and yucky here.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry for that. Cold up there
no
too.
Problem. No, actually, this is weird for us. We're usually under about 10 feet of snow and minus 30 degrees, and it's minus 3 today, and we haven't had snow at all yet.
Cool. Well, that's good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't mind. I don't like shoveling snow all that much.
Okay, let's get into this. I've read this email about 6 or 7 times. The original email that you sent. There's a lot.
Okay.
There's a lot there, and I just want to tell you. I mean, you know, I mean, I'm not like a trained psychologist. I don't have any training in any kind of family therapy or anything. I have some experience that I may be able to lend to you, but I want to get even more information from you. I mean, you're very
Yes.
descriptive, but I've got questions that I want to really make sure that I fully understand the situation, and it may be hard for
There's a
you.
huge history.
Yes,
There's a huge history with this whole situation. We've been, and it's a long story.
well, I want you to give me. I want the information so that when I do give you my thoughts on it, I can be as accurate as possible with what the
Okay.
situation is. First of all, in the beginning of your email, you said that you lost your husband. Well, you were married to him, right? At the time that he died, your daughter's son, dad.
No, we've been. My daughter. I have two daughters. I have a 15-year-old and a 12-year-old. I was married to their father for almost 3 years. My oldest was 3, and my youngest was a month old, and I left.
Okay.
He wasn't a very nice person, and so when I left, I went and I lived with my parents. So that's a big part of it because my youngest didn't grow up with him in the house.
Right.
My oldest only knew him for a little while.
Okay. So did they continue? They
So,
did not continue to see him after you left.
yes, they did. I did my best. I lived with my parents, and we lived not far from my parents. He was originally from Newfoundland, and he lived out west for a while, and then he came to Ontario, and I met him through friends at work.
Mm-hmm.
I got pregnant like soon after we met.
Right.
I got pregnant in the fall, and we got married that winter. I had my oldest that June, and almost 3 years later, I had my daughter in March. Things went south fast. I mean, I was 27. I wasn't stupid. I wasn't young. I knew what I wanted and all that kind of stuff. And I thought I found it in him when I found him.
Right.
And I had all the feels, and all that good stuff. But anyway, he wasn't a very nice person. He was an alcoholic, and he had a history. He had already had a DUI out west, and he had lost his license for a year out west.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I met him, he was actually going through the process of court for a care control. Here in Canada, I don't know if it's the same in the States, but care and control was the cops found him passed out behind the wheel of his truck.
Right.
And he blew really high. So I was, just to kind of skip over all the legal stuff, his lawyer told him to lie on the stand, and he did, because that's just who he is. And I sat in the courtroom 7 months pregnant and listened to him lie his ass off.
Right.
To try and get out of losing his license for 3 years. So he did. He lost his license for 3 years. I'm a nurse. I'm a registered practical nurse, and they're LPNs in the States, but we're kind of the same thing.
Right.
I don't actively nurse anymore because with the Purell that we have to use, I can't use it anymore because it destroyed the skin of my hands. So I work in an office now. But at the time, I was a nurse, and I was part-time, and I worked in the hospital that's local here. And, I mean, he was between jobs. He worked here, he worked there. He went to Niagara Falls and worked for 6 months, and I was at home by myself. That was after the baby that my oldest was born.
Okay.
My parents weren't happy with the situation because I'm very close to my family, and they helped me out a lot. But I was, I wanted to do what I wanted to do, and it was my life, and I was going to do it. So whenever he was away, he drank a lot, and when he came home, he didn't have a job, and I went back to work, and he was supposed to stay at home with the baby, and wound up that my aunt, my dad's sister, took care of her more often than he did. He did lose his license for 3 years, so I did drive him everywhere he went, to his jobs when he had one. Then to myself, to my own job, took care of the baby. He never did much with the kids. And he just wasn't involved. And when he wanted to do something, it was him first and them second. So I tolerated it. I mean, I didn't think it was a good idea because we had a baby and it just, anyway, I got pregnant again. My parents and him grew further apart when my daughter, before her 3rd birthday, we were over at my parents having supper and him and my dad got drinking and I went home. And my dad was going to drive him home because we just lived up the road from them. And he came home and he was drunk and he was crying and just his usual, but he was over the top that night. And came home, threw things around the house, screamed and yelled. And I just had enough. So I picked the baby up and I put her in the truck and threw the playpen in the truck and said to him, I physically had to remove him from my face.
So before that night, had he ever been abusive? And that night, was he abusive or was it just verbal?
It was never physical because I'm not that kind of girl.
Okay.
But he had me so mentally twisted at the end that I didn't know what to do.
Right. So how old was your...
I was exhausted.
How old was your youngest daughter when you left him, like, for good?
The first time?
No, for good. When you were done,
My
yes.
my oldest was 3 and my youngest was a month old.
Okay. Over the next 11 years, because he just died last year. And so it's been 11 years from the time you left him till he died. How much did your daughters see their dad? I mean, did they go with him away from you?
He got them every second weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And that worked until he took my youngest daughter. My oldest daughter stopped going because he had married somebody new.
Right.
And about 5 years ago. And she was really nice to them when they were little, but then when they started getting older, she was picking on my oldest, calling her fat all the time. And he was yelling at her. And anytime that anything happened in court, because we were in court all the time, he never paid child support. He fought me on everything. And so he would hold his paycheck in front of my oldest face and tell him how much their mother's a bitch and she's taking all his money and all that kind of stuff. So she got tired of it and she just said she didn't want to go anymore. And I said, you know what? You're old enough now to decide. That's your choice. And I mean, we fought for 11 years for the girls to be able to decide on their own.
Right.
And that one summer, he picked my daughter up on the last day of school because it was Friday. He'd get them Friday evening till Sunday evening. And he picked my youngest up and he took her and he kept her all that summer and he wouldn't let her come home. I went to court and everything, but it took so long that it took all the way to the last week of August. And I had to agree that she could go 50-50 if she wanted to. He wouldn't let me see her. He wouldn't let me talk to her. So that was a really hard summer.
This was with your youngest daughter, right?
Yeah, with my youngest. And after that, it was just, they were getting older and we finally got a lawyer assigned to them and let them make their own decisions. And they just said they didn't want to go anymore. But I said that was fine. That was their choice. They made the choice. And of course, every time something happened, it was always my son, and that's fine. He could say whatever he wanted about me because I don't care. He was hard on the girls.
In your email, you said that your youngest daughter, she was 11 when he died, and that she was with him when he died. How did he die?
He had a massive heart attack. He wasn't a good person to keep himself healthy.
Right. And
he had, they said he had some kind of a chronic thing, but I'm a nurse. I know what it is. And he had clogged arteries and he didn't take care of himself and he did drugs and he'd been drinking a good part of his life. So something has to give, when you don't take care of yourself. And his teeth were falling out of his head, the girls told me, and just because he wasn't taking care of himself and he was doing ecstasy and cocaine. And then I talked to the cop that was there, and I know him, and we live in a small community, and I knew him, and he asked me if I knew of anybody else who was coming that night. And I said, I don't know what you mean. And he said, who is he affiliated with? So I learned after that he was affiliated with quite a few biker gangs in the area, and some of them were very reputable people, and they were just wondering if I knew of anybody who might show up.
Right.
If she had called anybody else.
Had your daughter not ever talked to you about other people that were maybe hanging around Dad's house? Like you said that it turned out he was associated with some biker gangs. Did she ever talk about, a lot of people that were there?
I only ever heard about things after, like in the last, year since he's been gone. Every once in a while, a story will come out, and I didn't realize a lot of the stuff that he put them through, even though the stuff that I knew myself, the other stuff, it's like he had them hanging around with some pretty scary people.
Right.
And I didn't know about that stuff until just the last year, because that's whenever they've told their stories to me. I didn't know about any of that kind of stuff. I knew he was in biker gangs, but I just thought they were just weenies that, wanted something to do on the weekends. But
right.
that some of them were pretty bad. Yeah. So after this past year has been a growing year for the girls. My oldest is doing remarkably well in high school, and she's got a nice little boyfriend, and things are going well for her. But she was always the one that I wasn't worried about, because she talks to me about everything, and I never have to worry too much about her. But it's the other one. She never talked to me about anything that happened at the house that night or anything like that. She talked to my mom, which is fine, because that's who she feels comfortable talking to. But it was she does, and we've had counseling. The girls have had counseling forever, but she
was it individual counseling?
Anymore, so.
Were you in the counseling with them?
No.
Okay.
No. They would tell me if there were things that they were worried about,
right.
But they never. I never went in because I didn't want them to hold back. I wanted them to be able to say whatever they wanted.
Right. Prior to the last year, did your youngest daughter have any real discipline problems, or has it just been since her dad passed?
No, she's a hard nut, that one. She's a little mischievous. Like I said from the beginning, she's been hard. She was a very active baby. She never slept very long, and it was exhausting. And she's just my firecracker.
So she's a strong-willed child, would you say?
No, she loves everybody, but she can't sit quiet. She was the kid that could watch a commercial, and that was probably as long as she could sit down quietly. And she's been like that from the very beginning. So you don't have to get, super specific if you don't want to, but in your email, you said that she had gotten in trouble. You had gotten a call just recently from the principal, and you talked to her about it. There was some discipline, and then the very next day she got in trouble again. Was it for the same thing? And if so, what was it? And if not, what was both things? What was she doing at school that's getting her in trouble? Well, she's talking back to the teachers. This day and age, everybody's so damn sensitive. And I'm not meaning that she needs to talk back, but, if you look at somebody wrong, then it's always an issue. And she's hanging out. There's all these boys in her class, and she's friends with them, and boys will be boys, and it's not an excuse, but they do. And one of the incidences was you have to line up before you go into the school. And her and these two other boys, instead of lining up, they just took off running into the school. And with all this COVID business, there's rules now that you can't just, you got to listen to the teacher and do as you're told with, you know, everybody has to stay a certain distance and all that kind of stuff. And so she was just being a smartass, and they had dealt with it on their own for a little while, and they just couldn't have her talking back to them or just blatantly ignoring the rules anymore.
Right.
And I might be blowing this out of proportion, but I can't have them like that. They have to be functioning humans. They have to be able to behave themselves. I didn't raise them to talk back to people. I raised them to be polite and to respect their elders and to respect themselves and everybody else around them. So I couldn't believe that after we had talked the first time that I got a phone call the very next day with something else. And I was just like somebody smacked me. I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it.
Right.
And
Okay.
I mean, it's nothing major. She's not hitting anybody or she's not spewing stuff or anything like that. It's just, I feel the need that I need to step on this right now before it gets out of hand.
No, I agree you do. But I got to tell you, you know, I told you I read your email several times, and I'm just shooting you straight. I really expected, this is not that bad. This is not that big of a deal. I mean, yeah, she doesn't need to be talking back to her teachers and stuff. But when I read this email from you, the way that I understood it, I mean, I was really expecting, not that, you know, the ex-husband, you know, didn't have issues. He was using drugs. He was using alcohol. He wasn't, you know, he wasn't responsible to you, for you. It wasn't a good relationship. I mean, that's agreed. That's no bueno, no good. But I mean, I was really expecting it to be like really major stuff with your daughter. And after hearing you talk about it, it doesn't sound to me like it is. I think it's fairly typical. You know, what's going on, especially, I mean, she just lost her dad a year ago. She loved her dad. And I mean, I'm sure that does wear on her some. I would still recommend, I know you said they've both had counseling. I mean, if you can pursue counseling again, I understand what you're saying about wanting them to feel free to talk without you being there. They can just say whatever they want. But I would personally recommend maybe a little bit more counseling if your insurance or whatever, however you get your counseling. But make it, you know, ask if you can have some, you know, individual and family counseling, because I would like for you to be able to go in front of your daughters and talk to the counselor about how you're feeling about how things are going or how things went, so that if they hear you talking to the counselor about this is how I see things going, you know, they can say, hey, wait a second, Mom, that's not how things are going. You know, I see this differently than you do. It will provoke them to speak up to you a little bit more, or they can, you know, agree. And it may not happen the first or second, you know, session with a counselor, but I think it would be good for them to hear you talking to the counselor about it. So if that's a possibility for you, I would recommend that. And I also want to ask you about what your typical, and I mean, as briefly as possible, what's your typical day with your youngest daughter? I mean, I know you're working, she's going to school. I mean, are y'all spending time together in the evening? Is she staying by herself, going playing video games? What's going on with y'all's time together?
Oh, a typical day is I pick her up. She gets on the bus at my mom's house down the road. And so that's around in the evening, like around 4:30 here. And I bring her home and we make supper. Well, I make supper and she practices or does her homework if she has any. And then she loves her YouTube. So after she's had her supper or whatever, she does her own thing in her room, or she does a craft. Every once in a while she'll come out and watch a show with me in the living room. But most of the time she's just watching her shows laying in my bed or laying in her own bed watching the iPad. That's usually the typical day.
Okay. That sounds pretty typical of a 12-year-old to me. And the fact that she is watching, even watching any shows with you on TV, that's great. I mean, that she is, because I'd say there's a lot of 12-year-olds that won't watch TV with their folks anymore. So, I mean, I think that's really great. And I think what you said in your email about that you are basically just kind of taking her a few privileges away from her when she has gotten in trouble at school. I think that's right in line. I'm assuming, based on this conversation and hearing who you are and how you seem, I'm assuming that you are not, screaming and yelling at her when she gets in trouble at school. That's
not. It happens, but it's not something that she doesn't take to that. She's a very sensitive kid.
Yeah. Okay.
So you have to approach her in different ways.
Well, I'm glad you know that. I'm glad that you realize that. And in my opinion, it's never a good, to scream and yell at the kids, regardless of what, kind of kid they are. But if you recognize that she's sensitive and, that wouldn't work for her anyway, that's great. I don't think you really need that much help from me. I think that you are, under the circumstances, I think that you are really doing the best that you can. And I don't think that the issue with your 12-year-old is that extraordinary. I don't think, she gets in trouble at school a few times. I mean, now if it persists and it gets out of hand and becomes a bigger, where she's getting in trouble every day, or she's getting more and more and more defiant, then it might be an issue. But the fact that you're trying to address it now, right here at the beginning, I think you're doing just what a responsible mom would do. And I just don't think you need that much help from me, other than I would suggest, if you can, get do some family counseling where you can go in and talk on occasion too.
Okay.
How do you feel about
that's
that?
Great. I think it's a great idea. I'm sorry I bugged you.
No, you didn't bug me.
A question like that.
You did not bug me at all. I mean, I'm happy to hear. I'm happy to be here for you to get that story out for yourself. Maybe talking to me and telling me your story makes you feel a little better, and I'm happy to be here to hear it. And offer any guidance that I can. But I just think you're doing a phenomenal job already. I think that you're doing just fine. I think you sound like a responsible mother to me.
Well, we've done a lot of stuff, and it's always just been me. So it's hard to be the heavy all the time. So that, I guess, it just get to a breaking point, and I just wanted to make sure that from an outside source, I mean, I can talk to my parents, but I needed somebody else to say, maybe say that it's the way it should be, and that it's not that big of a deal. Maybe I don't know.
Well, you got it, because it's not. I think it's fairly typical, and I think that you are doing a fine job. And I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled to death that you even reached out for, something like this, because it shows that you love her. It shows that you're concerned. It shows that you want to be the best you can for your daughter. And so I think it's a great thing. And you know what?
I love you, and I love.
Go ahead. I love it when people tell me they love me.
I love listening to your. I know you just started and stuff, but it's just everyday stuff, and that's great, because that it's not sugar coated or anything, and that's awesome. I just think it's great.
I appreciate that. I really do. And what I was going to say is, if nothing else, maybe somebody else hears this podcast that is having a similar, issue with their child, and they'll be like, you know what? He's right. It's just pretty typical. And, maybe somebody else, they'll feel better about their own situation with their children. So don't feel like you wasted my time at all. We've had a good conversation.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah. If anything, anybody can take out of it is that would be great. That's fine with me.
Yes. All right, I gotta run on, but thank you so much for having the conversation with me, and I value you as one of my followers on TikTok, and I wish you and your daughters the best.
Thank you very much, Jason. Thanks for listening to me this morning.
You bet. We will talk to you later.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That was Kirsty. And that's just kind of blows my mind a little bit, that it sounds like maybe, I mean, just in my opinion, that maybe the way that she's acting, the way the 12-year-old's acting has nothing to do with her dad dying. It sounds like it's just a normal 12-year-old.
I think so.
Both of my parents were alive, and I was doing drugs and having sex close to that age. And so, like, some kids just rebel more than others, and some kids talk back. You can't say that it's not because the dad died, but you can't say that it is. It just seems like normal stuff.
Right. I'm same way. I mean, I was very, very, I was way more rebellious than what she's described with her daughter. And my parents were happily married, good parents, took me to church, your everyday suburban family. And I just rebelled. It's just who I was. I was pretty strong-willed, and, they didn't really know how to handle me.
It's funny. I use this analogy because my daughter's almost 11. She turns 11 in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And it's like, I use the analogy that like somebody that's been bit by a zombie, she's been bit by the teenage zombie.
Right.
Because you know how when someone's bit by a zombie, they'll start showing little symptoms and they'll be like, and then they'll be like, I don't know what's happening to me. They go, I feel like that's what my daughter's like. She's like turning into the teenage zombie. Every now and then I'll get glimpses of what she's going to be like when she's a teenager, and then she kicks back to her sweet little innocent self.
Right.
And so I'm like, no, but she's going to be a mess. I think my youngest will be fine because she's just sweet and quiet and stuff like that. But my oldest is going to be a mess.
Well, I portray my son as this, amazing kid, and he is. But, I mean, it's not like he's never done anything. It's not like he's never, he's disappointed me a few times for the most part. He is a great kid, and he doesn't talk back. He doesn't, he does what I ask him to do when I ask him to do it. But shoot, he's done things before, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Where the hell did that come from? I mean, come on, son. Yeah. So I mean, kids are gonna do stuff. I mean,
she seems like she just needed to. I mean, like, and your advice was so good too, because she just needed to hear that she was doing okay, and it just seemed like you probably let her get a ton of bricks off her shoulders, because she probably doesn't. It sounds like she doesn't talk to a whole lot of people, and a whole lot of people would probably tell her the same thing that you said, was like, hey,
right,
you're doing fine.
Well, she said she could talk to her folks, but that's her folks. Yeah. I mean, I can see how she may feel like, well, they're just telling me, because I'm their daughter. Yes. But this guy doesn't know me at all, and see what he says. So.
Well, it's just like going to your own wife for advice or something. You go ask your wife for advice or for her opinion on something. She's going to tell you, that you're doing fine in everything you do. She's never going to tell you you're doing bad. She's going to be supportive, stuff like that, But if you ask an outsider, they're going to shoot you straight, and that's what you're known for. So
right.
So it's great. I hope you were able to get that off your chest, Kirsty, and thank you so much for calling. It's been a great turnout for everybody that's been calling, and we love it. Just
right on.
Shoot those emails in. So,
yeah, please email me, because you may not always like what I have to say, but I'm always going to shoot you straight.
You have been listening to The Straight Shooter Show. Come back every Wednesday for new episodes.